What is going on, Hive Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about 5 mistakes that you can be making in the future during reopening. Yes, the pandemic and the situation that we're currently in will one day subside. When that will be, we're not entirely sure, but they will be opening things up in phases. And I want to make sure that there are fitness mistakes that you don't make, because breaking poor habits is a very, very difficult thing. So I'm going to talk about 5 fitness mistakes that I think are important when we reopen that you may fall victim to. Let's go ahead and break it down. Okay, quickly before we start, this video is sponsored by yours truly, Fledge Fitness and the Fledge Fitness Jump Rope. Now keep in mind, due to an incredibly high demand because of this pandemic situation that we're currently in, the jump ropes did sell out faster than what we expected. However, for the first time ever, you can go ahead and pre-order your jump rope, and the Fledge Fitness team is expecting a mid-June release. Once the jump ropes are back in stock, we will automatically mail them out to everyone who has purchased their jump ropes. If you want to purchase yours, you can either click on the top right hand corner or the link down in the description below. Now let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So let's go ahead and dive right into it with number 1, not utilizing what's available to you once we reopen. Now keep in mind, you still have to be cautious. This video will not be talking about the pandemic itself. If you do want to know about the coronavirus specifically, I did make a video essay that you can go ahead and check out. I will link it down in the description below. But this essay was made in the beginning of February, before everything closed down, before the pandemic became crazy. So it's just simply informative on what the coronavirus is, using the data and information that we were given by the CDC, the WHO, and current information that we already had on coronaviruses. So with that being said, you do have to be careful. Look at what the data is, even though they allow reopening, and then go from there. Now, why I say this is, maybe going directly to the gym as soon as it is open isn't the most safest thing for you to do, or maybe it's pretty safe. It all depends on what's the information that we have, what's the data in terms of the outbreak, in terms of the reduction of the outbreak, etc., etc. But if you now feel comfortable using running paths or bike paths, things like that, anything you have at your disposal within the boundaries of what's safe, I definitely recommend using it. It can definitely help you re-energize your interest in fitness, because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, it becomes monotonous and you can become tired of the same activities. This way, this acts as not only something that's different that can help you, but also as a breath of fresh air. So please, utilize what you have available to you during reopening. Just make sure that it is within the boundaries of what's safe for you as well. Let's go into fitness mistake number 2 during reopening: running directly towards all and every restaurant. Now, I know that this is probably the thing that a lot of people are just like, I must do this the moment this is available to me. I want the experience of sitting down at a table and just eating. Now, like I said, I'm not talking about the pandemic itself. The decision to go to restaurants may or may not carry risks that are based on the pandemic, but what I'm talking about is actually sending the wrong nutritional signals to your body, as well as an abrupt change in diet. Now, the thing with restaurants is that when you eat out, you don't know how many calories you're eating, regardless of what they're telling you, because everything is being cooked in mass. They can't tell you exactly how much oil is in your food. They can't tell you exactly how much carbohydrates or protein or fats are in your food. They just don't know for sure. They can give you a very, very rough estimate within a ballpark range, but they just don't know. So if you start running out to all these restaurants, what you might end up doing is getting your body acclimated to the surplus of calorie intake, and that can make it harder for you to maintain the weight loss that you've created, or even create even more damage if you haven't been able to take control of your eating habits during the pandemic. Now keep in mind, this doesn't mean just be super boring and don't go to restaurants. All I'm saying is to be mindful. Don't just start going to restaurants over and over again, spending money, and also eating foods in which you are somewhat in the dark on nutritional nutritional and caloric content. Just be mindful before you just run out to every single restaurant that's available to you. Now let's go on to mistake number 3. Keeping your activity levels low because that is the habit that you built. Try to ensure that you are changing course as quickly as possible. As I mentioned before, using the environments to your advantage. If you can go out now and comfortably feel like you can run, then go ahead and run. If you comfortably feel like you can go to the gym, if that becomes available, then go ahead and do that. Number one thing you want to do is try to use this as a psychological springboard. The same way people use January 1st as a psychological springboard to help give them that kick that will help them start whatever healthy new diet or exercise regimen that they want to start. Those are pivotal springboard moments because they actually provide you that reason to try and help eliminate procrastination. Once January 1st hits, you know that it's time to start. Once reopening hits, well, you know that it's time to start changing course if you have been at an aggressively low activity level. Now let's go ahead and talk about mistake number 4, going away from what has been working for you. Now, this is the thing. A lot of people actually have built good habits during this pandemic time. I know the majority of people haven't because it's difficult when you're stuck at home, but many people have used this as their springboard effect already to say, well, I have no excuse. I'm just at home. It's time to bite down and start working on my health. So if you have built good habits, don't use this as a reverse springboard effect to the positivity that has come out of being in a quarantine state for you specifically. Continue to do what works for you. Possibly once it becomes safer, maybe go to the gym or use higher weights to build hypertrophy if you want to build more muscle, as that helps you. Increasing the resistance during resistance training helps you build muscle through hypertrophy. So if you want to go ahead and do that, then go ahead and do that. But please don't fall off of the positive things that have come out of being stuck at home if you built positive habits during that time. Now let's go ahead and talk about the 5th mistake that a lot of people might make once reopening happens. And that's trying to jump into the exact resistance training routine and or cardio routine immediately after reopening. If you are new to resistance training or even just exercising in general, you might feel that you were at a certain level, and as soon as you're able to go back to the gym, you'll be able to hit that certain level again. But newsflash, we've been in quarantine for a pretty long time, especially when it comes to resistance training. But one good news is, because of the epigenetic satellite cell process that our body has, the muscle memory of what you were able to do is still there, but is somewhat dormant. Once you start the process of working out and slowly, gradually try to get yourself back up to a certain weight, then you'll be able to get back to where you were in a fairly quick amount of time. Do not despair. Don't think to yourself, it took me 2 years to get to this weight, and now I'm like almost back to square one, or I'm 50% of where I was, and now it's going to take me maybe a year to get back to where I was before. It won't. Keep in mind that it won't. You will be able to get back to where you were before fairly quickly, but satellite cells will eventually trigger, and you'll have to wake up those muscle tissue and fibers that have been dormant for a long time. I say this because if you just jump into those workouts without that preparation, you may actually injure yourself, and then you might be out of commission for an even longer time, which is definitely not